My first girlfriend used me and left me, but now karma has done its thing. Back then, I was a guy whose only interests were soccer, WWE, and video games. I had friends from my generation in school. I was in third grade of junior high, but I never had any romantic interest in anyone. It just didn't catch my attention. I enjoyed my adolescence my own way. My only priorities were being happy and eating well. Since I was 10 years old, I have been involved in the Protestant Christian religion after converting from Catholicism, and I still am to this day. The church I attended at that time, I no longer go. Maybe that's a story for another time because it's a good story, was something like an independent ecclesiastical community with a total of 6 group churches led by a main pastor. Pastor R was in charge of the other 5 pastors. We will call the main church MS, and I was part of the MA church. These details are just to provide context for how this started and also for the things you will read. In the church, several celebrations were held, some related to the church, others to the religion, and others in conjunction with Mexican festivities, like in this case, Mexico's Independence Day. Specifically, on Friday, September 16, 2011, we attended MS because there was going to be a fair celebrating Mexico's Independence Day, as well as Pastor R's birthday, since they coincided on the same day. Everything was going well. There was good food, good music, good company. I couldn't complain. Everything was calm. Everyone was doing their own thing. I remember enjoying some enchiladas in a park in front of MS, sitting on a bench alone until the pastor's granddaughter and a cousin of hers came over. They were both my friends from the church, so it wasn't strange that they approached me. We started catching up because back then I didn't have much access to the internet, and it was hard to talk to anyone on Messenger. At that time, Facebook was growing and was the sensation to use. The conversation was very good and interesting until there was an uncomfortable silence. It was noticeable that she was nervous until she said, "I know it should be the other way around, but the truth is I like you a lot and I would like to have a chance with you. Do you want to be my boyfriend?" Of course, I don't remember the exact words she said, but it was something like that. I still remember being somewhat incredulous at such a spontaneous and quick proposal. Despite that, I said yes. That's how my first relationship began and, eventually, my first heartbreak. Up to this point, I haven't given her a name, so we will call her LED. Throughout the relationship, I fell more and more in love. First love stuff. We were already thinking about the future, living together as far as we could, things like that, even about getting married. We went to the movies several times, walked around shopping centers, did couple things. I had a very good relationship with her parents and her brother, with whom I had a good friendship. But everything ended on June 23, 2012, at her quinceañera party. Since my mom found out that this girl was my girlfriend, she started doing more things for the church, especially church and hall decorations, something Mom paid for and really excelled at. They began to appoint her as the godmother of decorations since January 2012 because they were already organizing the party, and she gladly accepted. On the day of the quinceañera, right after my mom had finished decorating the church, she sent me a message on Messenger telling me that she no longer wanted to know anything about me and wanted to break up with me. That obviously affected me a lot and left me crying in my room, not wanting to go out. Mom didn't understand until she found out, and she also got sad. None of my family attended the event. I realized at that moment that, apparently, the hall had scheduled 2 events on the same day and gave priority to the other event rather than LED's quinceañera, something like instant karma. But this doesn't end here. In 2012, when we broke up, I entered high school and focused only on my studies. Since LED had blocked me on Facebook, I made another account, contacted her after several months, and got a response. She replied saying she missed me and wanted to get back with me but couldn't because she was in a relationship with another guy. That's right. This girl was already dating someone else so quickly. My young self got excited reading these things, so I kept hoping to get back with her. Of course, I investigated who she was dating. It was a guy who was, at that time, 22 years old, graduating as a lawyer. Investigating with some friends from the MS church, I discovered that the one who was behind the story of LED asking me to be her boyfriend to take advantage of my mom, and now had brought her to the lawyer, was none other than LED's mom. Something that made me very angry, but I did nothing. I kept messaging her, but my interest decreased day by day until, in a month, I stopped talking to her. I couldn't get over her. At least once a week, I cried over what she had done to me. All of that ended a year later when one of my best friends saw me in the classroom, alone, in the corner, crying. He asked what was wrong, and I told him nothing. He insisted until he said it must be because of a girl. At that point, I said nothing. He understood why. So he asked me to get up from my chair, took me to the terrace of the building where we were, and said, "Look, I understand why you're down and sad, but you don't have to let this dominate you. There are many girls out there who could go out with you." I must admit that this guy is usually very imprudent because of the nonsense he often says, but this time he made me feel good about myself with those words. After this, I started improving my self-esteem and learned to let her go. Halfway through high school, I started to distance myself from social media, a habit I have to this day. Literally, I didn't even use Facebook. The only thing I use is WhatsApp and Reddit, but in moderation. By adopting this lifestyle, I became more ignorant of the things that happened to many friends and family, and many people also became unaware of my activities. Several things happened. I graduated from high school, had my first job after high school, traveled to Korea for work, started university, achieved several significant successes in the 5 years after the breakup. For the same reason, I had to work and study a lot, avoiding going to many church, family, friends, etc. events. After those 5 years, there was a coincidence. There was an event at MS that this time I could attend, as I had a bit more freedom. To my surprise, I saw LED again with a baby in her arms. I thought that baby belonged to someone else, as by then we were around 18 years old. She approached me and we started talking. We caught up because she had investigated me, but I knew nothing about her. The things I had done she knew because her grandfather, Pastor R, told her family about them. After I told her about me, she told me she had gotten married and that the baby she had in her arms was actually her son. I was surprised and congratulated her for it. I started to notice that every time we coincided somewhere, she was hinting at me and giving me indirect signs that she would have liked to be with me. I just took the trouble to avoid those comments. The truth is, I no longer felt anything for her. I had already gotten over her. After a long time, in 2020, my current wife, who was then my girlfriend, put me in context about LED's life because it turns out they were neighbors and friends. I knew this halfway. She told me that when LED was dating me, she said bad things about me and my family, not just her, but also her family. She confirmed that LED's mom had brought her closer to that guy for economic interests. She updated me on her marriage. It turns out LED had a fight with her mom, accusing her of always controlling her life and other personal disagreements. One day, she simply ran away from home with some of her things. They couldn't find her. LED's family thought she was at my wife's house or that they knew where she was, but the truth is she never told anyone where and with whom she would go. My wife managed to contact her, and LED told her they would never find her. In short, they never found her for a couple of months until LED returned to her parents' house with a surprise in her belly. Yes, she was pregnant. Her parents didn't think twice and went straight to the guy she had gone with to marry them. It turns out that family attended the MS church and were friends with the pastoral family. During all that time, they sheltered LED but never told her family or the pastors that she was living in their house. This caused conflicts with that family. As for the guy she got together with, he was a year younger than her, had no studies or job. According to several girls, that guy was very toxic, overly arrogant, and spoiled by his family. After the baby was born and LED recovered from childbirth, she had to support her marriage by working at Walmart as a cashier, while her husband was a freeloader. Since it was closer for my wife to go to MS, it was normal to see LED. When she realized that my wife and I started dating, LED began to say bad things about me to her. She also commented that she regretted having replaced and left me. At the end of 2021, we had personal problems with the pastors, so we opted to leave those churches and join another organization unrelated to MS or Pastor R. This is just to put in context the following. Last year, we went to celebrate a child, the son of friends who still attended MS. At that party, we coincided with several friends, and also with LED and her entire family, not just her husband and their 2 children. Yes, she had another child with the same guy and was still with him, but also her parents and siblings. The intention was not to talk to them, but out of nowhere, they brought me a baby about 5 months old. I started playing with her, and after a while of holding her, my wife told me that baby was LED's daughter, so I was surprised. Since LED's mom was nearby, she saw me holding the baby and didn't hesitate to make a comment. "Look, my dear," referring to the baby, "that guy would have been your dad." Something that made us quite uncomfortable, not just because of what she said, but because there were quite a few people around, even LED managed to hear, so I made the comment. But thank God I'm not, right, cutie? I said in a playful tone to the baby, who started laughing. Obviously, that made LED's mom angry, and LED just looked down with a somewhat sad face. I handed the baby back to the mom, and we sat in a place away from that family. After that, the child's party continued, and everything went well. We left peacefully.